Aberdeen in recovery.
Aberdeen in recovery.
Aberdeen in recovery.
Aberdeen in recovery. We're here for you. Building that bridge from dependence to independence.
Good afternoon, everyone. You're listening to Recovery on AiR. My name's Dermot. As you'll very quickly realise, I'm not Lindsay. Lindsay's still not managing to be with us, but we send out lots of love and hugs and hope we'll see you soon, Linz. So, yes, we are ready to record on shmu 99.8 FM. Today I'm joined by Stevie, John and Stephen, all from AiR, but we also have a very special guest joining us today, James Dickie, who works with the British Red Cross Society, and he's come along today to give us a little bit more information of what he does, but certainly a lot more information about what the British Red Cross does. So, as is a normal process, we'll just go along with introductions. Stephen, how's you today?
I'm good, Dermot. I'm good.
Excellent. Enjoying some of this sunny weather?
Yeah, definitely. It's
Yeah. Puts us all in a better mood, eh?
definitely. What's the spirit?
Yeah. And Stevie, how are you?
I'm not bad. There's been a couple of little challenges this past week, but I'll get them sorted out, get it done. I'm enjoying the sun, get the sun being out.
Yeah. It's amazing that it's still like 9 and 9:30.
Yeah.
It's still light outside.
10 o'clock and it was still light. Right, last night I was lying in my bed at 10 o'clock with the light on. It was bright.
And John, how are you doing?
Yeah, things are pretty good. Enjoying the longer days as well.
Excellent. And last but no means least, James, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I got my house for once, so I'm quite excited to be back in like an office space. Loving the weather too, got in the garden. Yeah, it's a pretty good place right now.
Excellent. And just to let everyone know, because this is radio and not TV, we are for the first time meeting together, but obviously physically distanced as is appropriate. So this is the first time we've tried this, so we'll get our excuses in nice and quick, and any bloopers I'm sure John will edit out accordingly.
Of course.
If you'd seen the carry-on we've got and had to go through to get to just this point this morning, guys, it would have made really interesting TV. But that aside,
you're listening to Recovery on AiR at shmu 99.8 FM. Recovery, a journey of discovery.
So, we have just been joined by Chris. Hi Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Welcome, good to see you, good to have you along.
Good to see you.
So, James, you are employed as the content developer. Is that correct? Your title with?
That is the current title. I'm on secondment for 6 months. So my original role, title is Community Education Coordinator, and then in brackets for the North of Scotland, because I like to emphasise that it's not just Aberdeen. I cover a really large area, which means a fair amount of travelling, but it's good fun. My role, probably the easiest way to do it is to break it down to 3 parts of what I do. So the first thing I do is I represent the Red Cross and I promote our educational sort of products and content to everyone in our community, a wide range of people there, schools, support groups such as yourself, retirement homes, lots of different places we go to, and we provide the next sort of part of my role is I deliver first aid workshops, I deliver educational workshops, and I actively teach our products. We've really been expanding what we're looking at in terms of what is the need for the community in terms of education. And we're doing a lot more well-being sort of workshops now. So we've been experimenting in lockdown. We've been doing loneliness workshops. We've been doing empathy and migration, which is all about sort of compassion for refugees, asylum seekers, and exploring those legal processes a little bit. So really have been expanding our repertoire. Before lockdown, all I did was first aid, and that took up all my time. And I love first aid, so I'll happily talk about that for the whole show if we need to, but there is lots of other things we've been doing and learning and experimenting with, not least digital education. So we didn't do digital at all before we went into lockdown, and we've been talking about it for like years beforehand, like we'll do this eventually, look at digital education on the go. I've always been a big advocate of it because my region is so big. It's like, maybe I don't want a 2-hour train today. I can call in instead and do a digital show. So that's been great for me. A real experimentation, though, that learning process. I think we've got it almost right now. But it was sort of a 6 months of changing and picking things up and learning as we went along. Not least teaching the entire UK team, how to teach people digitally. Very different skill set. I do not envy all the teachers having to completely change their methods over this past year. It's not easy.
No.
It takes a lot of work, not least just learning the platform you're working with. We currently teach on Microsoft Teams and Zoom. So we've got 2 now, but before it was just Zoom the early days. But I'm glad we've got the options now because there's a demand out there for different platforms. And
Absolutely.
so I've been on secondment a couple of times throughout this sort of year and a half because Red Cross sort of likes to be reactionary. We have a lot of different services in the north of Scotland that had to react differently to this current climate. And part of that was that to begin with, back when it's got to think back, it's almost 2 years now, isn't it? Back to that sort of early March 2019. Was it 2019 or 2020? 2020. My time is gone.
Sounds like 2 years.
We had to like close education at that point because we just didn't know what was going to happen, which meant that my entire team sort of got relocated elsewhere. So I joined the crisis response team. I ended up being a coordinator of volunteers in like North England for a while as part of like our code response. So you went where you were needed. But I liked that. I kind of liked learning all these new skills, all these different parts of the British Red Cross, such a big organization, but we really got to sort of see how each department runs and what their needs are. And we took a lot of that back into education now that we've reformed, along with all this sort of digital knowledge. And my current role, I'm going to be back face-to-face in September. So I should be back in schools, all things going as planned. I'm looking forward to returning to it. And certainly sort of the last aspect, I think, is I promote our products, but I think really I'm one of the main people in the Aberdeen team who goes out there and speaks to the community, which is such an important part of sort of charity work and the BRC in general. It's all about reflecting our communities and accessing their needs. But we're one of the main departments that does that, just by proxy of going out and sort of teaching our first aid workshops, which are completely free, by the way. These aren't qualified first aid workshops like you'd think of doing with your work. This is about making first aid accessible, easy to do, and ensuring that everyone in our community has an increased chance of survival by having some basic first aid knowledge. And more importantly, the confidence to use it, because that's the big thing. So our education exists because we did a study a wee while back, and it turned out that when it comes to first responders, so your ambulances sort of responding to a first aid incident, we found that 50% of fatalities could have been avoided if first aid had been given at the point of incident. So our big game is just getting people confident in using first aid skills, because first aid's easy. Don't need me to tell you that first aid's easy. Everyone does first aid on themselves, their loved ones. It's natural to put a bandage on someone, put a plaster on someone. So the hard part's doing it for someone else in the moment. So that's what our education's all about.
Excellent. So many different topics. The first one, especially that you were speaking about that shift from face-to-face to digital, it's something that we ourselves, we had to struggle, so when lockdown first came, our ethos is all about community. It's all about face-to-face. It's all about breaking isolation by being connected to others. So we had to very immediately shift from face-to-face to online, and that has been a massive learning curve. It's really good to hear that you've managed to develop training programs online. And have you been delivering these over the COVID year?
So we develop them and we deliver them in-house. So I would teach our volunteers and our coordinators sort of how to use these digital platforms and had to incorporate into our education. Other aspects of the Red Cross did sort of have to went further. We do have a support line. We had one set up just for coronavirus response. We had to completely change how we do our independent living service, and we had to adopt new crisis response activities. So we've never done food parcels before. It's not something the Red Cross has ever done in the UK. Each Red Cross, like National Red Cross, is a speciality. Food parcels weren't one of the UK ones. They are now. And I found out yesterday from my colleagues that across Aberdeen and Elgin, we did deliver 750 sort of emergency food boxes across the pandemic. We've closed that service down now, which you might see across the UK in general with sort of food parcel services, that once the demand drops, you don't want to sort of occupy that space that traditionally the food banks sort of have, because food banks are a lot more than just a place that gives food. They're a community hub. They're a place where people go if they need help on top of just getting food. It's a really important link for a community in those networks. So we've stepped that down now because the demand isn't there anymore. So we donated what food we had left to local Aberdeen food banks, and we've taken a step back. But at the time, there was such an increased demand that we stepped up and did something new. We reacted.
I think that is really great learning for organisations, individuals who have been, and God bless every single one of them, being part of that provision of food parcels, etc. But the point you made about stepping back to allow the organisations who are set up to do this and to avail that, but also the accompanying supports that these organisations make. It's a very valid point. Thank you for that. You spoke about first aid training. So I'm a little bit interested in how you actually how your career developed, because it'd be quite interesting.
You're listening to Recovery on Air at shmu 99.8 FM. Recovery, a journey of discovery.
So back to James, and stop giggling, boys. So James, I'm quite fascinated to know how you actually got in. Did you have an interest in first aid, or was it a career choice about that development side of things, or how did you get involved with the Red Cross? Was it a passion?
I feel like there's two kind of Red Cross people. There's those people that have been in it from like the age of 12, and their Red Cross has just been their life, and it kind of spirals from that. And you get people like me who kind of stumble into it by kind of accident almost, and get dragged in. And once you're in, you're Red Cross for life. It does just seep into you. I met the Red Cross in Nepal first. I've never met the VRC before I met them in Nepal, where I was working with, I was volunteering as part of the ICS program. Anyone who's young, or just anyone who wants to do a bit of good out there, look up the ICS program. It's great. Basically volunteering abroad. The difference being that you volunteer with that community aspect. So you stay with a local member of the community you're working in, and you consult the local community on their needs, and that's what you contribute to. So it's a very grassroots kind of international aid program. And I was out there as a team leader, leading my team of volunteers, and the only other organization that I ran into out there on the ground like that, talking to the local community, was the Red Cross. I didn't know that at the time, but it was the Nepali Red Cross. And they were out there teaching fire safety workshops. So how to use a fire extinguisher, here's your emergency plan for the school, making an emergency escape plan for a school. They didn't necessarily have them. And planting trees. Two things which we do not do in the UK. The British Red Cross doesn't do those activities, but they were needed over there. And it was, we got on really well with them, and it was just nice to see someone else out there on the ground. So when I came back from that project, I decided to volunteer for the Red Cross. And once you volunteer for a bit, as I said, you get sucked in. I think a lot of sort of charity organizations are like that. And, they found out about what I used to do, and they sort of took those skills and said, well, here's a role for you. You think you'd be good? Come for an interview. And I did, and I got the role. Because a very similar skill set. I go out to the community, sort of consulting their needs and delivering on that, be that myself with my own teaching, or facilitating someone else to do that perhaps. And that kind of led me to where I am. I was only with the Red Cross for a month before the pandemic started. So I very much greens, and then as I was redeployed, I got like the full induction of everything Red Cross. I don't think anyone else will get that in a different period. So a lot of my colleagues and I started very close to the beginning of the pandemic, and we've had a kind of an amazing time. It sounds horrible to say, but we've got to explore so many new aspects of this big organization that if you didn't know about it, you wouldn't know they were going on. It's the same with local services. You just don't know you need something until you need it sometimes. So I recommend everyone go on your local Red Cross website and just see what's available for you, because there will be lots. One thing I always plug, because again, it's something you don't think you need until you need it, is we have a mobility aid service here in the north of Scotland. When you sort of break your leg and go to hospital, a lot of people don't know this, you don't get a wheelchair for free. You have to rent it. And that can get expensive depending on what you need to do. It can get quite expensive. So we offer a similar service at very low rates. Don't sit around waiting for a wheelchair. It's another thing. You might not necessarily get one. There's a backlog sometimes. Call the Red Cross. We'll get you a wheelchair on the day, and we'll make sure it fits you. It's another thing you don't always think about. Wheelchairs don't necessarily fit everyone. They need adjustments, so don't sit in an uncomfortable wheelchair either. Come talk to us. It's that service you don't know you need until you do break that leg that one time and you need a wheelchair. Lots of little things like that.
Yeah, and I have to hold my hands up, and really, if I thought Red Cross, or if someone asked me, what is Red Cross, it's about first aid. I'm delivering aid at different, and earthquakes and things like that. I'll be doing on the association, and it wasn't until earlier today I went on the website and sort of checked out, and the range of opportunities and the range of work that you guys do, it's pretty amazing. So yeah, good to have you along and get your a better informed, and certainly encourage guys out there, if you're looking for volunteer opportunities, give the Red Cross site a look, and get involved. So to the first aid aspects, you say you deliver the training sessions.
So we call them workshops. They're educational workshops. So I have to be clear and say they're not certified courses.
No.
So this isn't training you for a work certificate. You can do it with the Red Cross if you want, but it can't be expensive. We do day courses of like 20, I can't remember the price of it exactly, but they last 4 to 6 hours. Our workshops don't last that long because they're supposed to be accessible. And what we found is that the more you give someone information, the less they remember, which is sort of not what you want when you have essential information for saving someone's life. You don't want them to be sitting there going, oh wait, what was it again? There's a lot going on here. I need to think a moment and see what to do. We want to keep it simple, so we focus on your key action that's going to save someone's life. And 9 times out of 10, in fact, I will say 10 times out of 10, the action that's going to save someone's life, end of the day, calling 999 is going to do the job. Gets professional on the way. And if you're worrying about what am I going to do with that information, like what do I need to do? Well, when you phone 999, you've got a professional on the phone who's going to tell you what you need to know, talk you through everything, which is why sometimes, a certified course, it's great if you're going to need it, all that information in a work capacity. So say you work in an oil rig and you know what kind of accidents can happen. But for an everyday sort of scenario, what you really need to remember is act, and don't worry, you'll work it out. You'll get that information from 999. So that's the focus of our education. And it's for anyone that needs it. It's for vulnerable people in our communities is our sort of tagline. But it's also for people who support vulnerable people in the community, which does open up to a lot of different people. We have even gone into prisons in the past, particularly one up in Peterhead, and done workshops with prisoners because they're a vulnerable group. So it's a big wide range of people we cover, and it's sort of my job to reach out to those people and let them know, here's what we can offer you. We want you to have this knowledge so that you can make our communities more resilient and make you feel safer as well. Because ultimately, who are you going to use first aid with? Is it at work? Even if you do a work course, is it going to happen at work? Well, it's going to happen to people you spend most of your time with, your friends and family. Ultimately, that's what your first aid is going to be used on. So that's why I want it to be for as many people as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. And that basic form, as you say, the first thing to do is contact 999. You will get the professional advice that you need. but the level of first aid training that you're describing, it links in very well with the increased promotion of distribution of naloxone, which is a life-saving agent that can be administered. ADA, our principal partner organisation, they are delivering regular naloxone administration training, which includes basic first aid training. But AiR, with the support of James and his colleagues, we will be offering that training opportunities in the very near future. So please do keep a lookout for that on our websites. Yeah, so I thought I'd open up to the guys, and I said earlier on that I connected Red Cross, British Red Cross, with first aid, and probably got it confused with the what's the first aid service, ambulance, what's the
ambulance support is what we call it.
Yeah, okay. So what about you guys? What's your sort of thinking? Stevie, you were speaking break there.
I just thought like Red Cross was like earthquakes and real bad like accidents. So I might word, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure what else that we do in like Aberdeen or in the Shire. I don't know, because there's no earthquakes in the Shire or in Aberdeen. So.
Yeah. So that's certainly something I would identify with. Yeah, it's if it was a national crisis or a catastrophe,
you see their vans and their tents and stuff like that, which is cool. That I've seen them very far when I was little, came with Ethiopia and all that kinds of stuff, and then I just fit the D in Aberdeen and the Shire.
Yeah.
In some ways, the Red Cross is success, like a victim of it, because there's so much we do that some stuff gets lost in translation sometimes. But that's why we come here to remind you guys, what else we do. You're absolutely right. Our crisis response unit still exists in the UK. We're still very active. And what I like about it is that all of our sort of response units, it's a UK-wide team. So if something happens down in London, like the Grenfell disaster, we send people down from Scotland to help with that disaster. So we're very reactive across the UK team. In the Northeast, mainly flooding. To be honest, most of the UK, it's not really earthquakes, it's flooding, which is quite a big problem for us, and certainly has been the past couple of years. So what we tend to do is sort of organize the support for the emergency services when it comes to crisis response. So a lot of the time, it's something as simple as handing out blankets or helping build flood defenses. But we organize that and we help out the local government bodies to do that. We sit on all the resilience councils, as far as I'm aware. There might be one or two we don't, but we sit on the resilience councils and sort of are part of those discussions on how do we make the community more resilient. So that's like our big, exciting. There's the firemen of the Red Cross, the crisis response team. There's a lot more going on there. A lot of this sort of silent heroes. Big shout out to our retail staff. Large proportion of our funding comes from our charity shops. We've got 11 across the north of Scotland. So you got a lot of them propped up. We're in Aberdeen, probably quite recognisable to most people. It's on Union Street. Yeah. So it's very out there in the open, but we've got ones in Huntly, Elgin, and Inverness across the way. They're back open now, and we're accepting donations again. So please do donate if you've been holding on to stuff like I have actually for the past sort of year going, I want to donate this, but no one's like going to accept it. Well, we're accepting them now. So don't be afraid to drop that stuff off. It is kind of like our lifeline in a way. The BRC is our retail. Other silent heroes, I've already mentioned mobility aids. Fundraising, I feel like also doesn't get as big a shout as it probably should within the BRC. We've got a really big fundraising project at the moment going on in time for the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, if I'm getting my dates right. Yes, my sheet says that is correct. They're coming soon. So we've got a big collaboration with Team GB going on at the moment. So we want children to be encouraged to be their best. And we're doing this campaign. I think it literally is called, it is Be Your Best. That is the name of the campaign. It's encouraging children to sort of set themselves goals and to reach them in time for the Olympics. I think the big sort of one we're kind of pushing at the moment is a Lake District 5 and 10 Peak Challenge for the 10th of July. Quite a distance for us to travel to. But I'm sure we can make up a smaller one somewhere. But it's set your own goals. We've been supporting sort of schools and doing that as well. So in the community education team, we've been helping to make the education packs that go to schools so that teachers can do the challenge with their students. And in line with sort of products to support teachers, another big thing we've done is we've released first aid champions. So not only would I go into a school and do a workshop with the children, but the teacher also has access now to first aid champions. It's a digital teaching resource that lets you teach your own children first aid. So it gives you the support that you might feel you need. Certainly the first aid is on the Welsh and English curriculum now. It's something that's expected to be taught in school. But along with that, you might have a lot of people going, well, I don't know how to teach first aid. Now that's okay, because we've got all the activities on there for you, all the information you need, as well as an actual digital classroom, so you can kind of track what all your students have done on our website, what quizzes they've done, what activities they've learnt, and their scores. And that way you can kind of assess whether or not they have reached those curriculums that's been set. In Scotland, it's not actually in the curriculum yet, first aid, but there is discussions going on with the Education Secretary. I think it's St Andrews has been one of the main pushers for that actually up here. But certainly the Red Cross is pushing for it elsewhere, and I would expect it to come around quite soon. Now that I think Wales was literally only this year that it came onto the curriculum, and I think England put first aid on the education curriculum last year. So it's something that's come up now.
Certainly, the introduction of that to youngsters, I believe it would assist in that, that panic, when there is a crisis situation, and just a minimal of experience, and then a little bit of knowledge of a process to follow. It's that immediate panic. How do I deal with this? And then that to be introduced to children at a younger age, I think would be very, very beneficial. What were you other guys? Any other questions that's been stumped with what James has told us today?
Well, not with anything you says, but I've seen Red Crosses, people that help people that was homeless at Christmas time, and rarely ever see anything when it's near Christmas time. I mean, am I not seeing or looking at it properly? I mean, it's only because I volunteered for a wee short time in Street Friends, which is a place that feed the homeless, give homeless food, and actually clothes, blankets, all that sorts of things. But I seen it as a Red Cross, as people that help people who's homeless, and they just worldwide pandemic sort of thing.
It's a really interesting point. I don't have the answers to everything Red Cross.
No, of course, absolutely. But more educated.
If we're not active in something, such as we don't provide year-round services to specifically homeless people, it's normally because there's already an organization in the area that's dedicated to doing that. Same with the food bank kind of scenario. We don't want to be competing with other organizations, especially if they've got a network that's working and is supporting those groups. When it comes to Christmas time, I think it comes down to demand. I think perhaps maybe they've reached out to us and gone, we need your help this Christmas, or just in general, Christmas is a rough time for those people who are sleeping rough. Certainly is. That might just be why there's an increase in activity. But I don't think it's something we specifically dedicate ourselves to, homelessness, at the moment. I think it's more of our layered need approach. So we've got a vulnerability index where we kind of try and assess the needs of each community as best we can. And a lot of the time, people fall into like several categories. So someone who's homeless, for example, probably fits into a lot of our other vulnerable groups. For example, someone who might be struggling from violence, perhaps the domestic abuse, the layered needs occur there. So it might just be that we don't target the homelessness aspect of their needs. We focus elsewhere. But I don't have an official line on that. That's just me with conjecture there, but that'd be my guess.
Yeah. But I suppose it's reflective of, all these various different services. We know of them, but we don't really know exactly what it is or provide. And the more that I've this sort of working voluntary sector and charitable sector, it's something really quite new. And even the level of involvement that I have, you're still hearing of organisations that you don't really realise just exactly what they do. And the VRC very much a response, that first aid response. And I'm picking that up. That's still a very important part of the work that you guys do, and that response aspect.
Yeah, part of the fun part of my job is that I get to find out what all these local organizations are, not just the BRC, it's all the small ones that are doing a lot of the heavy lifting at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't think it's my place to call them out here, but certainly have a look around and you'll see plenty of local charities in Aberdeen doing a lot of good work here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And certainly one of the beautiful things that came out of the COVID crisis is how quickly and how just totally willing general public has been to be involved and to provide that support. And I still believe that voluntary resource is still available to us. And it's about, we've all got something to offer. We've all got something to offer, and if we find that niche to be able to give back, it's great. It's that we speak so much about community and community development, and AiR as an organisation, that's what we're all about. And being involved is so important. It's been a very vitally important part of my journey. Finding some way that I can give of myself. So anything, and some of the volunteer opportunities that James has told us about, I think are fantastic. And if we can encourage just anyone to get onto the website and have a look. I think you mentioned maybe during the break about you spoke about first aid champions. That's within the school.
Yes, so that was our online teaching resources. We have a number of different online teaching resources. We're First Aid Champions specifically dedicated to assisting teachers to teach their students first aid, as in line with some of the curriculum and also out with the curriculum. But you can access that for free. Please do check it out, anyone. We have a list of those schools that currently are piloting it. Last I checked, I think there was 5 in Aberdeen, so it is up here. It has made it up to the north, and there's 1 or 2 in Inverness as well. So it is going to start spreading out a bit, which is good. And we'll keep updating that. And I'm glad that it's got really good feedback thus far from teachers. And we're currently trying to get a PC HE sort of certified stamp from it as well, just to kind of reflect the work we put into it. And other one, if you're not perhaps a student in school, because we of course do adult education as well, it's not just for kids, we do accommodate all age range within our products and our educational offers. And for just average person out and about, we do have our first aid app. Very important thing there, when I speak to paramedics, they'll ask me, okay, have you got the app? Where can I download that? And you might think, well, you're a paramedic, do you need the app? And your response is always, yeah, but if I'm in danger, I don't want to have to explain to someone how to treat me for a heart attack. Show the app instead. It's free to download, works offline, covers a wide range of different sort of first aid scenarios. Meningitis, yeah, it's on there. I think the only thing that isn't on there is probably snake bites, because it's not something you should really be encountering for the most part. You might in the 1 in a million in Scotland who gets bitten by a snake, but it's not going to be in the app, but everything else will be. And it's got quizzes and sort of FAQs and top tips as well, but really quick, accessible first aid information if you need it. We do have a child and baby specific first aid app as well, just for people with young ones. There is slight differences for first aid for young ones. So it's a separate app for you guys, don't worry about it. Just make sure you're doing the correct first aid that way.
And I wasn't aware of the app. I'll certainly be giving that a look out. Just to have that as a backup on your phone, I think it's I would recommend that people access and then download onto your phone. The help with loneliness, I noticed that was on your website. Is there a specific team that sort of deals with inquiries into that?
So it's sort of almost a combination of 2 teams that have always existed. So we've always had our independent living team who support people with living a life sort of independently, predominantly people leaving sort of A&E. Perhaps instead of just people being sent home because they've broken their arm because they fell over, our team would go in and see, well, why did you fall over? Oh, it's because you've got cables exposed. Okay, we'll help you to not have those exposed anymore. Sort of more practical sort of means for ensuring someone can live independently, regardless of whatever condition they do have. that sort of filtered into our support line for coronavirus, which was a more direct support. And it was emotional support, advice perhaps on some of the more financial and sort of practical support offered during this time, like our food parcels and your sort of shopping vouchers that were going on for a while. And they kind of melded together a bit when it came to loneliness. It's something that within the education team, and I think a lot of people will have felt this, is that, you know, loneliness has always been an issue for the UK. 1 in 3 people before the pandemic, you know, would admit to feeling lonely a lot of the time, really high numbers. It was already a problem. I think lockdown sort of revealed that problem to everyone, and it sort of reminded everyone that actually a lot of people are feeling this way all the time. And we kind of capture that in our education a little bit. There's a lot of work to be done. It's a new place for us, but we've got a lot of awareness sort of workshops where we kind of discuss the topic in more detail. Been getting really good feedback for that, and it's definitely been a work in progress, but that's what we're trying to get into. Well-being, it's a need for our community, just not just the practical sort of resilience, but that mental resilience as well. And we're going to keep experimenting with that and see where it takes us.
And it's great to hear, because I believe that need for that emotional support you touched on about loneliness and isolation, it's been amplified by the COVID crisis, and I think the demand on services existing will find it very hard to cope with that level of demand. So the other organisations are being aware of that and looking to put in that support network. I think it all adds to the opportunities that people can tap into and make best use of. Anyone who's listened to our radio show over the last years and the last couple of years will know that's one of the main reasons we exist, is to try and break that isolation and the loneliness, which can result in addictive behaviours coming to the fore. But to know that there's other organisations looking to address that as well, it's really good to hear. Anything else that you think we need to know as general public as far as Red Cross?
I think just get out there and see what we're doing. You know, the wonderful thing about the Red Cross is that we never stop, and that within a month this will be an out-of-date talk anyway, the new stuff we're doing. Just the way we do work. But always worth having a talk because we're always there. And if we can't help you, we will definitely send you to someone who can. That's the nice thing about our networking, is that we'll always get you the help you need at the end of the day, even if it's not us directly that does it. So yeah, get in contact with us.
Thank you very much, James. It's been very informing for me. Again, I can fall myself into the trap. You know, you get so involved in your own network, in your own circle, and you forget that there's a whole world out there. So yeah, I hope we have stimulated some ideas for listeners. Just before we're closing, get ready with your pens and pencils. We'll give you some contact numbers. Any last comments from our other guys that are sitting in?
No, I just applaud for the work that you're doing, that you just told us about. It absolutely sounds amazing. And for you to be so young and getting out here and doing that sort of thing, is in schools and all that stuff. I mean, absolutely inspiring. And then we've all heard of the Red Cross. I know, absolutely. It's just amazing. Good for you, absolutely. And I will definitely be diving into a lot of that stuff that you mentioned. Good for you, my man.
You're welcome. Come along.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to pass over to John to do our closing information. I will, just before I do, I'll thank James again for coming along and talking with us. As said earlier, we will be arranging some workshops for James and or his colleagues to deliver that workshop on basic first aid training. So keep a lookout on our social media and our website. And please do give the British Red Cross, give their website a check out. And where will we find that, James?
BritishRedCross.org.uk. Nice and simple, that one. You type in Red Cross, will be the first one that comes up.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll pass over to John and he'll give you the last details for some contact numbers.
Well, thanks, Dermot.
And the time certainly has slipped by. If you'd like to find out more about Aberdeen and Recovery, who we are, what we do, head along to our website, www.aberdeenandrecovery.org, and you'll find all the latest, best information there. Likewise, you can follow us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. We are Republic_AiR. On Facebook, we are Aberdeen and Recovery. You can catch up with previous episodes of Recovery on Air, podcast versions, on our YouTube channel. Just head along to YouTube and search on Aberdeen and Recovery, and our channel will pop up. We'd love to hear from you. You can contact us through social media, or you can email us at info@aberdeenandrecovery.org, or give us a call on 01224 638 342. Lastly, if anyone is in need of more urgent advice, please call Alcohol and Drugs Action Helpline, and that number, it's a free phone number, 0333 344 8355. That number again is 0333 344 8355. So, although, well, have to say goodbye for this week, but please do join us again next week. That's 2 p.m. Thursday for Recovery on Air, right here on shmu 99.8 FM.
The flame in our name
is to shine a light onto the pathways of recovery,
which will build a bridge from dependence to independence
for the individual caught in the shadows of addiction
and looking for a way out.